Hi, and welcome to Reality Check. I'm your host, Lou Meyer, and my guest this week is Dr. Don Williams. Don, thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Lou.
Nice to have you here. Dr. Williams is a licensed chiropractor, however, has a lot more interesting stuff going on than that. Part of what you do is bioenergetic synchronization technique.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about what that is. How does that work?
Sure. Well, the bioenergetic synchronization technique is the technique part of the motor health system developed by M.T. Morter Jr. about 30 years ago. I've been studying with him for about 20 years. And it's a whole system of healthcare, really looking at how one can take charge of their health. And the technique developed because he, as well as many chiropractors like myself, knew that the chiropractic philosophy was correct, yet sometimes the techniques didn't quite live up to it, because if you've been a chiropractic doctor or a chiropractic patient for any length of time, you know that the misalignments in the spine tend to reoccur. So we knew that those misalignments might be causing pain or other dysfunction, but what was causing it? So he developed this whole system that's very gentle and non-forceful that helps to gently rebalance the muscles and get to the source of the problem, meaning where the brain is stuck responding to some past experience rather than what is happening right now.
Well, let me ask you this. I have a recurring back injury that I got from doing martial arts, and I can lift really heavy things and move wheelbarrows and nothing will happen, but I can step sideways and have my back pop out. Could this help something like that?
Absolutely, because usually there's something that set you up for that. You've been adapting, and at some point, the old saying about the straw that broke the camel's back. And it may just be that little extra thing. So there may have been some emotional stress that predisposed you to that. There might have been some eating patterns that weren't exactly the best leading up to that. We look at 6 essentials: what you eat, drink, breathe, exercise, rest, and think. And so once you're making choices, they're going to create an effect. And it's either going to create a healthy effect or an unhealthy effect.
So would you be asking me questions about my diet and my lifestyle and stress factors and things like that, and then I'd be proactive in my own way, changing the way my life goes?
That would be the part of it that would help you become more active, because most of our healing modalities in the Western cultures are very passive. Give you a pill, give you a shot, give you a surgery, a massage, a chiropractic adjustment, acupuncture even as well. It's all, you're just receiving it. And that's wonderful for the treatment to get you out of a problem, but it's not going to help you get well. Right. Because all healing is really active. So the technique itself, if you were coming in as a new patient, I would evaluate how your body's functioning. Much of the medical tests are determining what disease do you have. I want to know, how are you functioning? So all the tests that we do are non-invasive, using thermographic studies, using saliva pH testing, using blood pressure in a variety of positions to evaluate, are you responding and adapting to your environment properly? For instance, I would start to work with you and identify what's going on with the muscles and with the heat along the spine. And that's actually what we're offering in this Community Appreciation Day too, is some free thermographic scans which tell us how the organs are being affected by emotional stress. But for instance, in a chronic situation like you say, I've had low back pain for years, and usually it's okay, I would try to find out what was the emotional factors going on at the present time that may have led to it, and also what may be the emotional factors that didn't get resolved at the first time you had the pain.
Boy, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And so it's just that's amazing. And I really I resonate with being proactive in your own health. Over the years, I've overcome a number of kinds of addictions and things, and changed my lifestyle to be organic and mindful of my just my general lifestyle. If you study Buddhism at all, you learn about the right livelihood or right thought, right speech, and things like that. Applying those things definitely makes a difference in your life. Absolutely. And by paying attention to even just your posture, how you walk, and things like that, I think it's called like reprogramming or something like that.
Repattering.
Yeah. So once you start doing things like that, you can see that you can make a difference in your own life. life. And I totally agree with you about all the Western medicine thing where, give you a pill to, a lot of times just to eliminate a symptom. It doesn't really go anywhere near what caused the symptom.
And then also toxic side effects, which
yeah.
we call them side effects. They are direct effects.
Exactly.
They're not side effects, they're direct effects. Not that there isn't times when medicine is necessary. If for life-saving, for all kinds of other things, they're really great, but as far as improving your health, it's not what it's designed for. It was not designed to improve your health. The other factor that we were talking about is many times these factors that we were talking about are subconscious. And we've been going along making great choices in all our lifestyle and then still get hit. Because something may come up in the subconscious. Because your subconscious runs your body. You don't have to think to run your body.
Well, how do you address someone's subconscious? And that's a good point. Yeah, it's subconscious because you're not aware of it right now.
Yeah.
How do you get into that?
A lot of what we do is using muscle response testing and looking at how the body is functioning. And we find out how its present physiology is presenting itself, and then we'll start to challenge the body with certain thoughts.
Is that kind of like how a homeopath would have you hold a remedy in your hand and then see if there's muscle resistance to it?
Similar like that. I would then say, think about this memory, think about this feeling, because your subconscious mind stores memory as pictures and feelings. It doesn't think linearly. It's more of a right brain type functions. It's pictures and feelings. So what happens is it gets stuck in feelings. And then we perpetuate that feeling. And then it's overriding present time input. So it's appropriate physiologically if you're being chased by a tiger to be in defense, to be in emergency physiology. But then if every day of the rest of your life you're going, where's that tiger? I know there's a tiger somewhere around here. Now that's not going to be appropriate physiology.
Yeah, and you're setting yourself up with a fictitious fear now.
Absolutely, and that fear then has a whole certain physiology. You're in what we call a sympathetic override, which is an emergency response. And our bodies are not designed to be an emergency 24/7. It was designed for short periods, and then it's relieved. And all of the chemicals that we actually produce in our own body are processed and eliminated, particularly adrenaline. And adrenaline is one of the most difficult chemicals to deal with because we weren't designed to trigger that response from an emotional stress. It was designed to deal with a physical reality. So what happens is these chemicals like adrenaline and cortisol and norepinephrine and all the different responses those create are actually toxic if they're prolonged. So then we're constantly producing these things, and actually that's one of the things that causes aging and inflammation and all kinds of other factors that break down tissue.
And it also doesn't it also attack the various organs that are designed to eliminate toxicity from your body, like your liver, your kidneys, and things like that?
Well, when you're in an emergency, it's not a priority to digest, eliminate, or heal. The priority is get away from the tiger, because if you don't get away from the tiger, it doesn't matter.
Boy.
So we get stuck for the most part, and then we start to wear down. And we start to, like conditions like fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue are so prevalent, arthritis in our society, because they're all chronic degenerative diseases. The body is breaking down faster than it's building up.
Do you also recommend like dietary changes and things
Absolutely.
like that once you start figuring out what's going on with somebody?
Absolutely.
What a fabulous thing you're doing here. I love this.
We really like working holistically with people, and I know that word has been overused a lot. Everybody calls it holistic, but you really want to look at wellness is really the issue.
Let's clarify then. So when you say holistic, you're talking about not just the person's body. You're talking about all those other things we just mentioned.
Yeah.
Your diet, your emotional state. How you respond to things.
How you exercise, how you rest, what you're drinking, what you're eating, how you're breathing. All those are a factor. That's why, as I said, Dr. Mortar has really simplified it by talking about 6 essentials. What you eat, drink, breathe, exercise, rest, and think. And out of those 6 essentials, what you think has a more profound effect on your body function than all the other 5 combined.
Boy.
And that's a big statement, because we know how important it is to eat right and drink good fluids and plenty of water and all those other things. But it can be overwhelmed by what we call stinking thinking.
Well, most of I read a lot of literature, not much fiction anymore, but all of the things about wellness point to meditation as a very, very important part of your entire daily process.
Absolutely.
I think you should meditate every day and allow your mind to clear out. And one of I won't go off on this too long, but there's this guy Thich Nhat Hanh. He won a Peace Prize. He's a Vietnamese Buddhist monk. Won a Nobel Peace Prize for his work against the Vietnam War. Anyway, he was down in Marin County when I was living down there, and had a one whole day meditation with him. And he was telling you, one of the meditations was pay attention to every footstep that you take, but also another one was watch your thoughts for an entire day, then watch them again the next day, and see how many of those thoughts are the same thoughts you had yesterday.
Absolutely.
Or the same problems. Your mind can't wait to ruminate over the same problem it was ruminating over yesterday, and you still don't have a solution to it.
Absolutely. Dr. Mortar has a saying, think about what you think about when you think about it. And that's really, really important because we don't recognize a negative thought. In fact, another saying of his is most people think they're positive thinkers, when in actuality they're just positive about the way they think negatively. It's the way your mother and father thought, it's the way your friends think, it's the way the world thinks, and you don't necessarily recognize it as negative.
Well, that brings up a good point. And also, people think that they're well, in Buddhism, they talk about how you're not really there and there's no real you here.
Yeah.
And if you want to check that out, find yourself. And there's a variety of activity to do that. But anyway, it's the same kind of thing. And you recognize that you're creating your own reality. If you empower someone to make changes in their life and do things better, they're going to recognize that they have a little bit more control than they thought. And none of us are really victims of fate so much as we are victims of our own, stinking thinking.
Well, in truth, we are volunteers. I don't even like to use the word victims because we're not victims. We're all volunteers. You have to make choices. It's like a patient will even ask, well, I was just sitting at the stoplight and someone rear-ended me. I said, you had to get in the car. You had to be there at that time. You have to at least take some responsibility for every aspect of our lives. And so we were talking about wellness, Lou, and how I look at wellness is having body, mind, and soul aligned with spirit. No interference. And because that's really the key. And that's what we look at many times. We were talking about how we can be making great choices and still end up with something because there is a factor of energetics that's involved. And we can be accessing latent energetics and it just comes sprouting up. So some people call that by a lot of names. Some people call it karma. Some people call it a lot of things. Ultimately, it's some latent energetic, whatever name you want to put on it, that is interfering with that reception of that spiritual energy that, again, activates that original blueprint, that template. So we start putting overlays over that template, and we're not even who we are. Usually there's been some experiences in our past when we were very young. Like I was working with a woman today. There was something that happened at 3 years old. And she was in the middle of this party, all dressed up, and she was just beaming, just as a 3-year-old does. Mm-hmm. And somebody said something, squash. Then she becomes self-conscious, never lets her light shine that way again.
She's done at 3, right? That's it.
Done at 3. It's the Adam and Eve story. You become self-conscious and want to cover up. We're naked, we're open. No, I can't show that. I'll get hurt again. So we go through our lives protecting ourselves against getting hurt. But it's a big lie because then what happens is you create what you're focusing on. So you're focusing on protecting yourself against that fear, you draw it right to you because there is only the law of attraction in life. There is no law of repulsion. You can't push away what you don't want. You only attract what you're focusing on.